So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lawrence Hill. I work for TJC. My illustrious friend over there, Mark Holmes, is going to do the most of the presentation. Then I'll do a quick wrap up of the key points. So just to overview TJC, for those of you who don't know us, the group itself is French. We've been doing archiving and extraction of data from SAP, which are our specialist areas. We've been doing that for about 20 years. We deal with all the evolutions of SAP from through the R3 and then into S/4HANA. Obviously, there's a lot of hot topics and talk about the extraction of data for the new tax rules over on the continent, etc. So if you've got French subsidiaries, you would have met FEC and things like that. We've been around, as I said, since the mid-90s, 20 years on the continental side, 450 clients worldwide. We've just opened Germany this year, so we have subsidiaries in the UK, subsidiary in Germany, and the main head office in France, and we deal with the Americas and Asia through our partners. UK team, which I set the company up here 6 years ago, we have our main clients being EE, Vodafone, Sony, UK Power Networks as a utility, and Carlsberg is probably our largest client. And if you want a case study on Carlsberg, very happy to download one for you. The UK specialist archiving team, headed up by my colleague Helen, who's sitting over there. She is also the project manager for the EE project. All our ABAP development for our tools is based here in the UK, and also Imelda, who should be from marketing, who hasn't yet arrived. She's manning the stand. They're all based here in the UK. So I'm now going to hand over to Mark. Mark is the enterprise architect for EE/BT Group, because as you probably know, BT took over the EE side of things about 2 years ago, I think it was. Mark's been in and around this group for 16 years, right from when the EE was formed with the Orange and T-Mobile being merged together, and his focus is on the SAP ERP side of things. He's fully involved with the integration of the organisation since the acquisition, and he's engaged in the future assessments that are taking place inside EE/BT for the S/4HANA side of things. So I get to sit down. This is the man who's got the real information.
Good afternoon. I thought the easiest way to start this is to give you a bit of background into kind of what happened with Orange and T-Mobile and ultimately EE coming together and then BT. So both Orange and T-Mobile both used SAP for their ERP systems. And for various complex reasons, which we won't go into here, we chose the former T-Mobile instance as our target EE SAP. Pretty much after that joint venture was started back in 2010, we did a consolidation of the HR and payroll systems, because it makes a lot of sense. You get, single user identity and all that kind of thing. Since then, we launched EE. And that became a major change in the volumes of data pouring through our target SAP system. So, that wasn't just on the supply chain side, but also, our indirect partner commissions. So, the money we pay people like Carphone Warehouse and others for connecting business with us. And also the financial activity started to pour through that side of our SAP estate. We consolidated our retail side of things, so underpinning all of our stores, and also our commissions applications into SAP. So we were now starting to grow quite a large estate. Since then, we've done some more consolidation. So we've managed to consolidate all of our finance activities, so that now only transacts in our target SAP. We've also managed to do half of the supply chain bit, so the reverse logistics side of that's consolidated, and touch wood. In spring, we should get the final consolidation, and we will have only one active SAP instance. And to show things are moving along, we have now integrated our mobile supply chain with the BT business and public sector systems, so that we're actually making use of our mobile supply chain operation. So we're expanding as we go. So where do we have our problems? So data's growing, and it's hitting the performance. There's no secret about that. That does become a kind of pressing problem if you don't archive. Hardware availability issues. So our estate at the moment is kind of nearing towards end of life for its hardware, and it's very difficult to get more capacity. You can't just throw more tin at it. We don't really have, or we didn't have, an archiving capability, and we didn't have any archiving activity going on. So we were collecting data ever since the estate had been running. To top that, our hosting partner was closing the data centers where our SAP was hosted. So we have to move the application, and that's scheduled for kind of late February next year. And that gave us worries as well, because the more data you've got, the more data you've got to copy across from your old site to your new site, and therefore you've got a bigger outage potentially. And tying in with all of those themes there, we host in a private cloud, and the more data you've got and the more performance issues you've got, you throw more tin at it, and that results in more costs. Simple as that. So what do we do? Well, what do we need to do? So we needed to archive our target SAP to make room. So if we're trying to consolidate the SAP estate, we've got to make room to put it in there. We can't just keep adding. We also had to archive our former old beloved Orange SAP instance. It's got too much data in it, which we shouldn't keep, and we've got to be able to decommission it. So we need to be able to get into a position where we can shut it down. We also, we are looking at, product selection for moving forward, and that includes S/4HANA, and we do need to clean up our world before we get there. We don't want to be carrying forward all that legacy. And then, as was mentioned in the keynote speech this morning, and I'm sure in lots of other conversations, EU GDPR. So to comply with that, we've got to get our information retention policies implemented. It's no point having the policies, you've actually got to have them in there. So the scale of the problem. So the blue line is kind of representing where we are and our target growth based on the current growth activities that have been happening. The red line is actually what we're hoping to achieve after archiving. So whilst you can see we kind of slimmed down from over 11.5 kind of terabytes down to about 6 or 7, you can also see the graph starts to get further apart. So you can see the impact of the archiving isn't just taking you down and then sort of running parallel. You actually start to see real difference between the two as time goes forward. So what are we doing next? So we've started this cleanup activity. So we've started the archiving. We've been running for, what is it now, 2 weeks? 3 weeks. And we've already shaved 600 gig. So it's over 0.5 terabyte off. With a fair wind behind us, and assuming we don't have any other obstacles in our own environment, we're hoping by the end of the year to have either achieved that or be very, very close to it. So we're going to complete that initial phase of archiving of our, as I'm told it's now, classic SAP environment. We're also then going to do some archiving. By archiving, I do mean purge of our BW environment. That's equally kind of bloated, and we're looking to, again, get about 30% savings and storage reduction from that environment. We're then going to do also a second sweep on our ECC6 environment to try and pick out any of the EU GDPR data items that we haven't already picked. So the first wave is about size reduction, and that will get rid of all of our biggest tables. We'll prune those down, but there'll be 1 or 2 where we're going to have to go back and actually clean out some smaller tables because it contains personal data. We're then also going to do some archiving to our old Orange SAP to decommission it, and that's kind of 2 things. That's one, to prune out all the data that we shouldn't be keeping anymore, so bring those information retention policies in line, but also to enable us to go into a decommission mode. So we'll run mothball probably for up to 6 to 12 months, depending on user traffic. And then after that, what we hope to do is retreat to a technical archive using some tools from TJC so that we can take it to a more specialist query, but actually turn off the hardware so that there's no actual SAP instance running, and still be able to support queries and the odd audit thing. So it's a way out of that application rather than running it for the next 6 years to keep all of the financial data and whatnot. And lastly, we're going to try and continue to monitor the growth and identify any additional archiving opportunities that we can find. So, you saw the graph, it's still going to grow, so depending on how the business is performing, what new things we've done, there may be additional objects that we can put in there that actually means we can keep that data size from growing too much. So why did we choose TJC? There's lots of archiving vendors around. For those of you who know, and there is one in the room, we have tried to do, back in the days of Orange in the mid-2000s, tried to do some archiving. And it's got kind of two big challenges, really. So SAP do provide an archiving mechanism, as you all know, through archiving objects. But there isn't a lot of automation in that. And what we found previously is it's a lot of effort to kind of hand crank that archiving activity to get the data out. And the other side of it is, to be honest, we focus all our efforts on delivering new capabilities to running the estate, not actually to do the archiving. So we don't have a lot of experience around that, not within ourselves, not within our managed service partners at the moment. So TJC, their primary activity is actually around archiving. That's attractive in itself. We know they've got a proven track record. You saw some of the customers mentioned earlier. They do have some really good consultants, and they work in a kind of partnership approach. So it's not, not being done to you. We've had Helen, who's been great help. Even Phil's one of our most hardened cynics in the team with confidence when she speaks to him. She's got a lot of knowledge, and we've worked in partnership with Helen to sit in front of the business and have some of the complicated discussions around archiving, what it'll look like when it's actually in nearline storage, what will happen with real archiving, and how the data will come out. So there's been a lot of collaboration. The unique selling point for us was also the archiving sessions cockpit. This is the automation. And, already in the last few weeks, I can't imagine how much more work we would have had to do in order to hand crank that data out ourselves. And that's gone pretty seamlessly in the background, which is excellent. For those of you who are contract-minded, it was a fixed price contract, and it has guaranteed storage savings. So, you know what money it is up front, you know how much you're going to save. We're en route to that already, and I have no doubt that we will achieve it. The only obstacles at the moment are our own obstacles, which we can sort out. It's not related to the activity we've got with them.
So just to pick a couple of key points there on what Mark said, and also then to give you enough time to ask him some questions. They have mixed environments, some old legacy systems which we're dealing with. We are dealing with the current ones, and we're helping them archive down in planning for S/4HANA as well. So those are key points to note. Their data volumes are coming down, so that's going to have an impact on improving its performance, etc. And it's giving them the confidence of the data. It's now safely in archive, which means it doesn't change. It cannot be changed, which is very important for compliancy. The point that Mark raised about the hosting, the private cloud hosting, as he said, the more data you have, the more that cost can go up. There's nothing wrong with open cloud, and storage and long-term storage of archive data can go up there, but it's picking the right horse for the course. And then finally, the S/4HANA migration. Very important that if you are working towards that, and this is the S/4HANA stream, that area archiving, getting that volume down before you migrate over is something SAP recommend. It's something that has been known about practically. So if that's an area you want to talk about, it's an area we can go through. So in essence, open the floor up to any questions. I'm sure Mark is there. He's the person who needs to answer those, not me from the TJC side. But if there's anything, Mark will be happy to take any questions.
Necessarily specific to why you were doing it. I know you had some data protection and other reasons, plus saving on hardware. But if, for instance, you're thinking about doing S4 HANA, and you know the platform can compress data and report them within the records a second, etc. Did you think that maybe you would keep more data, rather than having any nearline storage, because you think it's just going to be easier to get it anyway, rather than maybe on the old system that was making reports from?
I think it's one of the questions we've got to review as we go forward, but I think most of it is a transition towards getting to the target retention policy. So if we take our indirect partner commission, does everyone know what I mean by that? The money we pay to dealers as we connect people collects an enormous amount of data, and actually, with EU GDPR and several other things that are going on internally, the business are reviewing actually what is the right point that they want to get to, in terms of whatever contractuals they've got with dealers about how far things can be challenged back, trying to get it right so that there aren't the challenges going backwards. And actually what we've kind of said is this is more of an interim approach, whereby actually we'll keep it a little bit longer for a period with a desire to close that bit down, so hopefully we won't be in a situation where there's enormous amounts of nearline storage. We've yet to review the balance, but the key for the moment was getting out of the core system, because it's could argue one element of the system was kind of dragging the performance down of everything else. That gives us time to breathe and time to review what can be achieved with those policies. But I guess one of the things that maybe doesn't come across in the slides is actually when you go out and visit the business and talk about the retention policies that are published, that's still an interesting conversation, and you've got to work through some of the challenges to it. Sometimes it isn't as simple as it looks in terms of the business policy, and working all of that through has potentially given us options of nearline for hopefully a temporary basis. Does that make sense what I answered? Yeah. Thank you.